When a husband passes away, one of the biggest challenges a widow faces is the sudden wave of financial responsibilities that can feel overwhelming. In such a moment, emotions run high, grief clouds judgment, and the temptation to make quick decisions, whether out of pressure from others or from a desire to simplify life, can be strong. However, rushing into major financial decisions is one of the most costly mistakes a widow can make. At a time when clarity is low and emotions are raw, decisions about property, investments, or even moving homes can lead to regret that lasts for years. Financial matters require time, patience, and careful thought, especially when one's future stability depends on them. It is important to understand why slowing down is so crucial and how avoiding impulsive financial actions can secure long-term peace of mind. After losing a spouse, many widows feel that their life has become too big or too complicated. They may feel their home is too large to manage, or they may fear they cannot handle investments without their husband's guidance. This leads many to sell a house quickly, liquidate assets, or shift money into new accounts suggested by others. While these actions may feel like solutions, they can sometimes be mistakes. For instance, selling a family home too quickly might mean losing not just emotional comfort but also financial value. Property markets fluctuate, and what seems like a burden today could be a valuable asset tomorrow. Once sold, it cannot be reclaimed, and later on, many widows wish they had waited before making such a move. Similarly, investments, retirement funds, or businesses built with a husband are often rushed into liquidation. Perhaps friends or relatives give advice to cash everything out, or simplify your finances, but in reality, such a move can reduce long-term financial security. Many investments grow with time, and pulling money out hastily might mean losing future income. Sometimes, investments also come with penalties for early withdrawal. A widow who acts too fast may unintentionally reduce her nest egg and find herself with limited options in the years ahead. Instead of thinking about short-term relief, it is far wiser to pause, seek professional advice, and only make moves when the mind is clear and information is fully understood. Another reason why rushing financial decisions is risky is because predators often strike when grief is fresh. Unfortunately, there are people who see widows as vulnerable targets. Relatives, acquaintances, or even strangers may present opportunities that sound beneficial, such as quick investments, property deals, or offers to help manage finances. Without careful thought, a widow may agree to arrangements that strip her of her financial independence. Once money is lost, it is often impossible to get back. By avoiding quick commitments, she protects herself from these dangers. It is always wise to delay major agreements until proper legal and financial consultation is obtained. Time is also necessary because grief affects the brain's ability to process information clearly. Research shows that in times of emotional distress, decision-making is impaired. A grieving widow may be more impulsive, less focused on details, and more willing to trust others. This is why financial advisors often recommend waiting at least 6 months to a year before making any major financial changes after the death of a spouse. During this time, the widow can focus on healing, understanding her financial position fully, and considering what choices align best with her long-term goals. The urgency to act often comes from outside pressure or internal discomfort, but in reality, very few financial matters require immediate resolution. Utilities, daily expenses, and basic bills need attention, but property sales, investments, and large financial shifts can usually wait. Another mistake widows make in rushing decisions is moving to a new place too quickly. The feeling of loneliness in a family home may be overwhelming, and some widows think relocating will fix the pain. However, moving immediately can lead to regret because emotional attachment to the home and community often reappears later. A house may hold memories, stability, and familiar surroundings that actually provide comfort in the long run. Selling or leaving too soon removes that anchor during a period of adjustment. It is often better to stay put for at least a year before making such a decision. This allows time to separate the temporary feelings of grief from the permanent needs of life. Delaying financial decisions also allows time to gather knowledge. Many widows have not been directly involved in handling every aspect of finances while their husband was alive. Learning about accounts, investments, insurance policies, and property laws takes time. Rushing into choices without this knowledge is like walking blindfolded into a maze. Taking slow, steady steps ensures that she understands the full picture. Seeking help from trusted professionals, lawyers, certified financial planners, or accountants, can bring clarity without haste. The widow must remember that her financial well-being is the foundation of her independence, and it deserves thoughtful protection. It is equally important to recognize that not making a decision is also a decision. Choosing to wait and allow time for reflection is an active, wise choice. It prevents rash mistakes and preserves options for the future. By delaying, a widow can also explore alternatives she might not have considered in the immediate aftermath of her husband's death. For example, instead of selling a house, she may find renting out part of it provides both income and companionship. Instead of liquidating investments, she might discover they can be adjusted to provide a steady income stream. Such solutions appear only with patience and time. To avoid rushing, widows can adopt practical steps. First, they should separate urgent tasks from non-urgent ones. Paying bills, handling funeral expenses, and ensuring daily living needs are covered are immediate priorities. Everything else, property, long-term investments, inheritance distribution, can usually wait. Second, they should create a temporary financial plan for the first 6 to 12 months. This plan should focus only on stability, not growth or change. Third, they should resist pressure from others, no matter how well-intentioned. Family or friends may push for decisions because they believe it is for the best, but only the widow knows what truly aligns with her comfort and needs. Finally, they should remind themselves that grief is a process, and with healing, clarity will return. Decisions made in a clearer state of mind are almost always wiser and more beneficial. In summary, avoiding the rush to make major financial decisions after the death of a husband is one of the greatest gifts a widow can give herself. Time heals not only the heart but also the mind, giving her the strength and clarity to safeguard her financial future. Acting too quickly often brings regret, but patience opens the door to better opportunities, stronger security, and peace of mind. By pausing, learning, and seeking wise counsel, she ensures that her future remains stable, secure, and free from unnecessary loss. When a husband passes away, the widow often finds herself in an emotionally fragile position, which unfortunately makes her vulnerable to being taken advantage of by others. At such a time, trust can be both a comfort and a danger. Many people, whether strangers or even those within the family, may try to exploit her grief for their own benefit. This is why protecting oneself from exploitation and scams is absolutely critical. The reality is that financial predators see widows as easy targets because they assume she is inexperienced with money, overwhelmed by paperwork, and eager for guidance. Even people who once seemed supportive may show different faces when property, pensions, and inheritance are involved. Guarding against this requires awareness, caution, and the ability to say no when pressure arises. Scammers often appear soon after the death of a spouse, when news has spread and emotions are raw. They may pose as financial advisors, investment experts, or even sympathetic friends offering to help manage money. These individuals can sound convincing, presenting plans that promise high returns, guaranteed profits, or quick solutions to financial stress. In reality, most of these schemes are designed to drain a widow's savings. They prey on confusion, knowing she may not fully understand financial jargon or may be too tired emotionally to investigate the details. This is why widows must adopt a rule of never signing anything or committing to any financial arrangement without independent professional advice. A pause before any decision is the simplest form of protection. But exploitation is not limited to outsiders. Sadly, family members or relatives sometimes attempt to take advantage too. Property disputes are one of the most common sources of conflict. A brother-in-law, cousin, or even adult children may insist that certain assets rightfully belong to them or pressure the widow to distribute inheritance quickly. In some cultures, widows are especially vulnerable because traditional expectations or social pressure push them to surrender assets for the sake of family harmony. Yet once property or money is handed over, it rarely returns. Protecting herself means understanding legal rights clearly, ensuring that property titles, wills, and bank accounts are in her name, and not allowing others to rush her into signing transfers or giving away shares. Another subtle form of exploitation comes from dependency. Some relatives or friends may offer support but with strings attached, creating a situation where the widow feels obligated to them financially. For example, someone might move in to keep her company, but then slowly take over her finances or pressure her to give them control of accounts. Sometimes they may even borrow money with promises to repay, which never materialize. These situations are damaging because they mix emotional comfort with financial risk. To avoid this, widows should keep personal support separate from financial management. Companionship is valuable, but control over money should remain strictly with the widow or with professionals she independently selects. Fraudulent businesses also target widows. Telemarketing scams, fake charities, and online fraud are common traps. Scammers know that widows may be lonely and more likely to answer calls or messages from strangers. They exploit sympathy by posing as charities for widows, veterans, or children, asking for donations. They exploit fear by pretending to be tax authorities or utility companies demanding immediate payment. They exploit trust by offering special senior packages for travel, health products, or home repairs. To guard against such schemes, widows must learn to verify every request, ask for written proof, and never give personal or banking information over the phone. A simple practice is to say, "I will call you back after checking," and then contact the official source directly. Professional predators also exist, and they can be more dangerous because they appear legitimate. Unethical lawyers, accountants, or financial planners may charge excessive fees, hide information, or steer a widow into investments that benefit them more than her. The best defense is to seek recommendations from trusted sources and check the background and credentials of any professional before hiring. Meeting with more than one advisor and comparing advice can also reveal inconsistencies. Transparency is key. A widow should demand clear explanations in simple language, detailed contracts, and the ability to walk away at any time without penalty. Professionals who push for quick decisions or dismiss questions should be avoided. Emotional manipulation is another tool exploiters use. In grief, a widow may crave security, reassurance, or the feeling that someone else will take care of everything. Unscrupulous individuals play on these needs, portraying themselves as protectors. They may say, "Don't worry, I'll handle it all for you," creating dependence. But this dependence often leads to control, and soon the widow may find she has lost not only her money but also her independence. True support should empower her, not weaken her. A strong sign of safety is when an advisor or friend encourages her to learn, take time, and make her own decisions instead of pushing her to surrender control. Guarding against exploitation also means educating oneself. Even basic knowledge of finances can prevent manipulation. Understanding how to read a bank statement, knowing where assets are stored, learning the basics of property ownership, and being familiar with common scams equips a widow to ask the right questions and spot red flags. Many communities offer free financial education workshops for seniors and widows, and taking advantage of these resources builds confidence. With knowledge, the widow transforms from a potential victim into a stronger decision maker. Support networks are another layer of protection. Isolation makes widows easier to exploit, while being connected to friends, community groups, or trusted relatives creates a shield. When someone proposes a financial arrangement, discussing it with others before agreeing often reveals hidden risks. A predator relies on secrecy and silence, so simply sharing and asking, "Does this sound right to you?" can break their control. Trusted companions also provide emotional grounding, which helps the widow resist manipulation that plays on loneliness. Legal safeguards are equally important. Updating wills, ensuring joint property is transferred, securing pensions, and confirming that bank accounts have proper beneficiaries all close the doors that exploiters often try to pry open. If documents are outdated, relatives or outsiders may use loopholes to claim assets. A lawyer who specializes in estate planning can help secure these documents properly, providing peace of mind. Legal clarity is the best defense against those who attempt to twist or exploit uncertainties. The bottom line is that exploitation thrives on grief, confusion, and haste. A widow who recognizes this truth can protect herself by slowing down, demanding clarity, seeking independent advice, and refusing to let anyone pressure her into decisions. Trust should be given cautiously and only to those who have proven themselves over time. With vigilance, education, and strong support, she can navigate her new reality safely without falling prey to the traps that so many others face. Protecting against scams and exploitation is not just about money, it is about preserving dignity, independence, and the peace of mind that her late husband would surely want her to have. When a husband passes away, the widow often inherits a great deal of responsibility, not just emotionally but also legally and financially. One of the most common mistakes that can lead to serious problems is failing to keep legal and financial documents updated. In the middle of grief, paperwork may feel like the last thing to think about, but it is precisely at this time that attention to such details becomes essential. Property titles, wills, insurance policies, pension accounts, and bank records all need to reflect the new reality. If they remain outdated, the consequences can be painful and costly, leaving the widow vulnerable to disputes, delays, and even financial loss. Taking time to update these documents ensures that control remains in her hands and that her future is secure. The first set of documents to consider are property titles. In many families, houses, land, or vehicles are legally registered under the husband's name. If those titles are not transferred promptly, the widow may face serious obstacles later. She may find it difficult to sell the property, rent it out, or even prove ownership. In some cases, relatives may step forward and challenge her rights, claiming that the property belongs to them by inheritance. Even if the widow is the rightful heir, outdated documents create openings for disputes that can drag on in court for years. Transferring titles into her own name as soon as possible ensures clarity, prevents misunderstandings, and protects her ownership. Next comes the will and estate planning. If the husband had a will, it must be reviewed carefully and executed according to the law. If he did not, then inheritance laws take effect, which vary by region and culture. In either case, the widow must ensure that her own will is also updated to reflect the new situation. Many widows forget this step, assuming that their children or relatives will know what to do when the time comes. But without a clear, updated will, confusion arises, and families often break apart over property disputes. By creating or updating her will, the widow ensures that her assets are distributed according to her wishes and that her children or chosen heirs are protected. Bank accounts are another area where outdated information creates difficulties. If accounts were solely in the husband's name, the widow may not be able to access funds immediately, even if she is the legal spouse. The bank may require a death certificate, probate, or other legal proof before releasing funds. This can cause financial stress at a time when money is urgently needed for daily expenses or funeral costs. To avoid such problems, joint accounts or beneficiary designations should be reviewed and updated. If the widow has accounts of her own, she should also update the beneficiary information so that her money is protected for the future. Insurance policies are often overlooked but are extremely important. Many widows do not realize that life insurance, health insurance, or even car insurance must be updated after a spouse's death. If the husband was listed as the primary beneficiary, the widow must update the records to name new beneficiaries, whether children, grandchildren, or other loved ones. If this is neglected, the policy may lapse, or in the worst case, the benefits may go to the wrong person. Updating these documents ensures that the safety net of insurance continues to provide support when needed most. Pension accounts and retirement funds also require attention. Many widows are entitled to survivor benefits, but these are not always automatic. The widow must file the necessary claims, provide proof of relationship, and sometimes choose between different payout options. If she delays or overlooks this, she could miss out on significant income that could support her in later years. Furthermore, she should also designate new beneficiaries for her own retirement accounts. If these remain outdated, her hard-earned savings may not pass to the people she intends after her own death. Another important area is legal guardianship, especially if the widow has minor children or dependent family members. The husband may have been listed as the guardian in legal documents, and now that he has passed away, new arrangements must be made. Failing to update these can create uncertainty, and in some cases, courts may intervene to decide guardianship. By updating these documents, the widow ensures that her children's future is secure and that they will be cared for by people she trusts. Even small details, such as utility bills, car registrations, or digital accounts, need attention. If these remain in the husband's name, complications can arise when renewing services or handling disputes. For example, if a widow wants to close or transfer an online account but the login or registration is under her husband's name, it can take weeks or months to resolve. Updating names across all such accounts may seem tedious, but it saves a great deal of time and stress later. One reason widows neglect this task is emotional. Seeing her husband's name on documents feels comforting, like a piece of him still exists in daily life. But holding on to outdated paperwork for sentimental reasons can backfire. It is possible to preserve memories in other ways, through photos, keepsakes, or journals, while still ensuring that official documents reflect reality. Another reason is fear of legal processes, which can feel intimidating. Many widows assume updating documents requires lawyers, large fees, and endless bureaucracy. In reality, many updates are straightforward once the death certificate and necessary identification are provided. Some organizations even have simple forms for changing names or beneficiaries. Seeking guidance from professionals helps simplify the process and provides reassurance. The consequences of not updating documents can be harsh. Widows have lost property to distant relatives simply because the title was never transferred. Others have missed insurance payouts because the beneficiary was still listed as someone else, such as a sibling or parent of the husband. Some have struggled for months without access to funds because bank accounts were locked. These situations add unnecessary suffering on top of grief, but they can be avoided with timely action. Updating documents also provides a sense of control during a time when everything feels uncertain. It is an empowering step, showing the widow that she is capable of managing her affairs. It helps rebuild confidence and independence, which are essential for moving forward. Moreover, it honors the husband's memory by ensuring that the life they built together continues to provide security for the family. To manage this process, a widow can make a checklist. Start with the most critical items: property titles, bank accounts, insurance policies, pensions, and wills. Then move to secondary items like utility bills, vehicle registrations, and digital accounts. Keep copies of all updated documents in a safe place, ideally with trusted family members or in a safe deposit box. Review the documents regularly, at least once a year, to make sure they remain accurate as life circumstances change. In the end, keeping legal and financial documents updated is not just about avoiding disputes or protecting money. It is about securing peace of mind, ensuring independence, and creating stability in an uncertain time. For a widow, this step is an act of responsibility and self-respect. It prevents others from taking advantage of confusion, closes the door to conflict, and builds a foundation for the next chapter of life. By updating documents with care and diligence, she not only protects herself but also safeguards the legacy of her husband and the future of her family. When a husband passes away, one of the greatest dangers a widow faces is neglecting her own health and withdrawing from the support systems around her. Grief is heavy, and it often causes people to forget about their physical and emotional needs. Meals become irregular, sleep is disturbed, and doctor visits are postponed. Loneliness creeps in as the widow isolates herself, either because she does not want to burden others or because she feels no one understands her pain. Yet this neglect can be as costly as any financial mistake. Health, support, and social connections form the foundation of well-being, and without them, the grieving widow's life becomes more difficult, less secure, and more vulnerable to decline. Prioritizing these aspects is not selfish, it is a necessary act of survival and strength. The first part of this priority is physical health. Grief has a direct impact on the body. Stress hormones rise, the immune system weakens, and the body becomes more prone to illness. Many widows stop cooking proper meals, opting instead for quick snacks or skipping food altogether. Nutrition suffers, and this can lead to fatigue, depression, or worsening of existing health conditions like diabetes, heart problems, or high blood pressure. At the same time, grief often disrupts sleep, leaving the widow tired and drained. Lack of exercise also sets in because motivation is low, and daily routines are disrupted. All of these factors combine to reduce overall health and shorten life expectancy. That is why widows must make a conscious effort to eat balanced meals, drink enough water, take regular walks, and maintain medical checkups. It may feel meaningless at first, but small steps toward physical care build strength for the future. Equally important is mental and emotional health. The death of a spouse leaves a deep void, and loneliness can become overwhelming. Without companionship, evenings feel empty, and everyday conversations vanish. If this loneliness is left unchecked, it can spiral into depression, anxiety, or feelings of hopelessness. Some widows retreat completely from social life, refusing invitations or avoiding gatherings because they do not want to face questions or sympathy. Others isolate themselves out of fear that people will not understand their grief. But isolation only makes the pain heavier. Human beings need connection, and widows must remind themselves that seeking company is not a sign of weakness. Talking about feelings, sharing memories, or simply being in the presence of others brings relief and helps the healing process. Support systems are critical in this stage. Family and friends may not fully replace the bond of a husband, but they provide companionship, care, and a sense of belonging. A widow who keeps herself open to these connections will feel less alone and more capable of handling daily life. For example, a daughter may help with household responsibilities, a friend may offer a listening ear, or a community group may provide new friendships. Spiritual communities such as churches, mosques, or temples also offer emotional comfort and a shared sense of hope. Joining widow support groups can be especially powerful, because it allows women to connect with others who have gone through the same experience. Hearing stories, sharing struggles, and receiving encouragement from those who truly understand creates a healing environment that no amount of solitude can provide. Neglecting social connections can also have financial and practical consequences. A widow who isolates herself is more likely to make poor financial decisions because she has no one to consult or advise her. She may become an easier target for scams because she lacks a network to warn her about suspicious offers. She may miss opportunities for benefits, pensions, or community programs simply because she is unaware of them. On the other hand, a widow who stays socially connected has access to more information, advice, and protection. Trusted companions can help her spot red flags, remind her of deadlines, and encourage her to act in her own best interests. In this way, social life becomes not just a source of comfort but also a shield against mistakes and exploitation. Taking care of health and maintaining social ties also influence a widow's sense of identity. Many women see themselves primarily in the role of wife, and when that role ends, they feel lost. They may ask themselves, "Who am I now?" Without health and support, that question can sink into despair. But by staying active, healthy, and socially engaged, widows can rediscover themselves as individuals, women with skills, dreams, and strengths of their own. Some find new hobbies, others volunteer in their communities, and some even start small businesses or projects. This transformation is only possible if they remain connected and healthy enough to explore new paths. Another reason prioritizing health and social connections is vital is because of aging. As widows grow older, they may require more medical care and physical assistance. If they have neglected their health in earlier years, small problems may escalate into serious conditions. If they have isolated themselves, they may have no one to rely on for help. But if they maintain good habits and strong connections, they can age with dignity, independence, and support. Children, friends, and community members are far more willing and able to assist when they feel the widow has stayed connected and has maintained her own well-being. Emotional resilience also comes from taking care of oneself. Grief never completely disappears, but it becomes lighter when balanced with healthy living and companionship. A widow who eats well, exercises, and nurtures friendships will gradually find joy returning in small ways. She may smile at a grandchild's joke, enjoy a walk in the park, or feel gratitude for the support around her. These moments build over time, creating a new life that honors the past while embracing the present. Neglecting health and support, on the other hand, traps her in a cycle of sorrow and decline. Practical steps can make this process easier. Setting a daily routine that includes healthy meals, light physical activity, and some form of social interaction provides structure. Scheduling regular doctor appointments ensures medical conditions are managed. Joining a group, whether for exercise, hobbies, or support, helps prevent loneliness. Even small interactions, like greeting neighbors or attending community events, make a difference. Technology also offers tools to stay connected. Video calls, social media groups, and online classes can bring interaction without leaving home. The key is consistency, making health and connection part of everyday life, not occasional afterthoughts. It is also important to remember that taking care of health and seeking support is not only for the widow herself but also for her loved ones. Children and grandchildren often worry about her well-being. If they see her neglecting herself, they feel helpless and distressed. But if they see her eating well, staying active, and finding companionship, they feel reassured that she is coping. By prioritizing health and connection, the widow not only strengthens herself but also provides peace of mind to her family. Ultimately, life after the loss of a husband is difficult, but it does not have to mean a life of decline. Health, support, and social connections are the pillars that hold up the widow's new chapter. By caring for her body, nurturing her emotions, and embracing companionship, she builds resilience and opens the door to healing. Neglect may seem easier in the short term, but in the long run, it only increases pain and hardship. The true path forward lies in valuing life, even in its changed form, and giving herself permission to live fully again. This is not betrayal of her husband's memory, rather, it is honoring his love by ensuring she continues to live with strength, dignity, and hope.